From stories around the world to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. A pleasant evening. I'm Dulanjali Ananda.
A very good evening to you, and I'm Chandrasekhar, and starting off we take a look at the headlines for tonight. Hindus celebrate Deepavali respecting health guidelines. 11,325 Covid-19 patients fully recovered. Travel restrictions imposed on Western Province will be removed from midnight tomorrow. 183,000 new Covid cases were reported from the United States. Minister Johnston rejects the social media allegations on the Lankagama road. Ports authorities says actions have been taken to conduct cargo operations on time. Joe Biden wins Georgia.
For those and other stories in detail on your top story. Hindus in Sri Lanka and across the globe celebrate their vibrant festival of lights today, November 14th. Diwali or Deepavali has been deeply woven into the Hindu faith for centuries. It is a time of resurgence in terms of spirituality guided by light in a physical and divine sense. Living in multi-ethnic Sri Lanka, we have been blessed to learn about other religions and their ardent traditions. The memories of Diwali recalls of the radiant glow of lamps, the smiling faces lighting the lamps, and the gathering of family members and neighbors. The taste of traditional Tamil sweets is another happy flashback. Diwali originates from the Sanskrit word Deepavali, where Deepa denotes lamp or candle, and the word Avali means row. Light dispels darkness. It is a common religious belief in all religions. Hindus mark the event that Lord Krishna killed the demon Narakasura. Hindu community at Central Hills also celebrated Deepavali, respecting the health regulations. Participation of devotees was strictly limited. Deepavali pujas were held at Eastern Province as well. Deepavali religious activities took place at several kovils in Colombo. However, some Hindu temples in isolated areas were closed. Religious activities were conducted in Kandy and Mathale districts as well.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that he believes Hindu devotees living in the country and overseas would jointly commit themselves to God to seek solace during this Deepavali festive season. He reminds that Hindu devotees across the globe light up lamps and engage in religious observances with the expectation of dispelling darkness of ignorance and illuminating wisdom. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa issued a message to commemorate Deepavali festival, greeting Hindu devotees all over the country. He said Deepavali festival is a renowned cultural celebration where the devotees extend wishes of enlightenment and share greetings with love and compassion. The president said that his view cultural festivals of this nature provide great opportunity to build communal reconciliation and mutual understanding among the people and empower ethnic and religious harmony. At a time when the entire world is facing unprecedented difficulties due to the Covid-19 pandemic, such an opportunity to observe and celebrate one's own religious beliefs is indeed a consolation, the president said. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in his Deepavali message said that he would like to wish a very happy Deepavali to all those celebrating the festival of lights in Sri Lanka and around the world. Lighting a lamp at this joyous occasion symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil and knowledge over ignorance, states Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in a Deepavali message. Prime Minister also said that Deepavali was also a reminder that Sri Lankans must dedicate themselves to overcome every challenge together as a community. It is through unity that we can defeat ignorance and ensure that compassion prevails in our heart, Prime Minister said. The message also stated that as a nation that defeated the evils of ignorance and separation time and time again, may the radiance of lamps lit continue to bring peace and unity to our land.
Something that changes your life story. Litro Gas.
Welcome back. We continue with more news from home. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa attended religious observances at Ruwanvali Mahasaya in Anuradhapura yesterday, seeking blessings on the people of Sri Lanka and the world. Upon arrival at the sacred site, President called on the chief incumbent of Ruwanvali Raja Mahaviharaya, Venerable Pallegama Hemaratana Thero. Joining the Kapruka Puja and Ashtapala Chatumadura Puja, President sought blessings on the country and people. A special Pirit chanting was conducted at the premises. Aloka Puja was also held under the patronage of the President. Delivering a sermon, Venerable Pallegama Hemaratana Thero invoked blessings upon the persons engaged in COVID-19 prevention activities, including those who are attached to the health sector and the security forces.
Travel restrictions imposed in the Western Province will be removed from Monday. Accordingly, the travel between Western Province and the other areas of the country will be commenced as usual. However, restrictions in isolated areas will remain without any change.
The restriction in respect of leaving the Western Province would be ceased by 12 o'clock tomorrow, Sunday night, and that quarantine order is ceased accordingly. However, there are certain areas in the Western Province that have been locked down. That particular quarantine order remains as it is, and the inmates of lockdown or isolated areas cannot leave the area, or no one is allowed to enter into that area. That quarantine order remains as it is until further notice. However, other quarantine order that is made in prohibiting leaving Western Province will be ceased by 12 o'clock tomorrow night.
Meanwhile, several arrests have been made in connection with spreading fake news and false information through social media.
Post that was circulated among various websites, and apart from that social media such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, regarding the death of COVID positive patients. So that particular post categorically mentioned about the deaths happen on roads. According to that particular post, it was said that plenty of deaths happen in Sri Lanka on roads and no actions are taken. We initiated investigation into this particular post, and we were able to trace a person from Kadugannav area, and he had posted that post. It's a bogus and fake post. He was arrested. He is a 35-year-old person running a garage, and he was produced before the magistrate Kandy, and he has been remanded till the 18th of November 2020. Further investigations are being conducted at the moment, and we have identified another 4 persons in that particular group, and this is an organized crime, so therefore we are taking a stern action against the perpetrators. So 4 persons are awaiting arrest. In addition to that, as of today, 53 COVID positive deaths happened, but 1 out of 53 happened on the road because that particular disease was a beggar and he did not have any shelter. So therefore that death happened on the road. So that is the one and only death happened on roads in respect of COVID positive persons in Sri Lanka. So therefore that post is absolutely incorrect, bogus and fake.
There is also a concern among the general public regarding the beggars at traffic lights during the pandemic season.
In the Colombo city and in suburb areas, so the majority beggars, so apparently, I mean, they are pretending as beggars, but they are not real beggars. So they do a business. So they have their bosses and businessmen. So they collect that money and that particular boss is doing a business. But very few, 1%, 2% out of this all beggars, so they don't have anything, so and they don't have any jobs or any other income, so they are begging. So now we are going to differentiate these two categories, the majority fraudulent beggars, and apart from that the actual real beggars. So if they are real beggars, so we are going to talk to the social services institutions, and a mechanism is going to be established in order to deal with them. But the others, 90% of beggars who are waiting at traffic lights and junctions, they are not real beggars. They are fraudulent beggars. They are pretending as beggars, but they do a business. So they are dealt with the law in terms of the provisions of the Section 59 of the National Thoroughfare Act. So they are produced before the magistrate because they are blocking the road, and the vehicle flow cannot go ahead. And apart from that, they have committed an offence under the penal code that is called wrongful restraint. So under these provisions, they are charged in magistrate courts, and if they are found guilty of the charges, the court can impose a fine and imprisonment for the both. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bye.
Ministry of Health says that a total of 11,324 COVID-19 recoveries have been recorded in the country. Meanwhile, 293 COVID-19 recoveries were reported today. Another 27 COVID-19 patients at the Pinnavala COVID Treatment Centre have been discharged following their complete recovery. They have been identified as residents of Colombo, Kaluthura and Mahava areas. A total of 6,925 COVID-19 recoveries were reported in the country since the beginning of this month. The highest number of recoveries were reported on the 5th of November. A total of 11,324 COVID-19 recoveries have been increasing the percentage of recoveries up to 69.03. Meanwhile, the percentage of active COVID-19 patients currently receiving treatments stands at 30.65. Colombo Municipal Council has decided to conduct health clinics to enhance the level of public health at the isolated housing complex in Colombo City. Those clinics will be conducted from the 16th to the 28th of this month. Further details can be obtained from our news web www.runews.lk. A total of 468 COVID-19 patients were detected from the country yesterday. Meanwhile, 378 COVID-19 patients left hospitals yesterday. A total of 13,671 PCR tests were conducted yesterday. Accordingly, 650,257 PCR tests have been conducted since the beginning of the pandemic. A total of 214 COVID-19 cases were detected from various parts of the island today. The patients have been identified as close contacts of the Paliagoda COVID-19 cluster. 18 inmates at the old Bogambara prison, 14 female inmates at Kuruvita prison, 44 inmates at Booster Prison have been identified as Covid-19 infected cases. So far, 329 Covid-19 cases have been reported from prisons throughout the island. National Dangerous Drugs Control Board has launched a new counselling service targeting drug addicts and their family members. An emergency phone number 1927 has been dedicated for this purpose. The 24-hour service will be provided in Sinhala, Tamil and English languages. A quarantine centre has been opened at Zaira College, Maradana for the well-being of police officers of the close contacts of Covid-19 cases reported within the police service. The centre can accommodate 700 residents at a time. Senior DIG Deshabandhu Tennakon declared open the quarantine centre today. 37 police officers are currently under quarantine at the new centre. We now take a look at how the world is combating the Covid-19 pandemic. India's overall tally of new coronavirus cases remained steady today, but officials were watching a surge of cases in the capital that comes as people socialize during the festival season. New Delhi has seen a spike in recent weeks, recording more new cases than any other Indian state. The rising numbers coincide with a busy festive season nationwide, with millions celebrating Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights, today. Health experts warn of crowded festival celebrations causing a virus resurgence that batters India's healthcare system. India's health ministry reported 44,684 new positive cases in the past 24 hours and 520 deaths. Of those, 7,802 new cases were reported in New Delhi, with 91 deaths. India has seen 8.7 million infections since the pandemic began, the second most in the world, but daily new infections have been on the decline from the middle of September. The country has also seen more than 129,000 virus deaths. The U.S. states of Oregon and New Mexico have announced strict measures to curb the spread of COVID-19 as the country faces growing outbreaks of the disease. Officials have ordered most non-essential businesses to close and urged people to limit their social interactions. Yesterday, California became the second state to hit 1 million COVID cases after Texas. On average, more than 900 people a day are dying with the disease in the United States. Daily cases have topped 100,000 for the last 11 days, and more than 67,000 people are currently in hospital. The US has seen over 10.7 million cases and 244,000 deaths thus far, according to Johns Hopkins University.
Now, a hospital in the French city of Strasbourg is now able to offer coronavirus relief to other regions badly affected by a second wave of the disease. It's a different story to earlier in the year when patients were having to be flown elsewhere for treatment.
When Covid-19 first hit France earlier this year, parts of Strasbourg were so badly hit that it had to evacuate patients by helicopter. But in the second wave, it's other regions who are suffering, and the city is returning the favour. The role reversal has seen these same helicopters that in the spring were flying patients out of the area now fetching patients with the virus from elsewhere and bringing them in for treatment. Christophe De Stefano is part of the helicopter crew.
In a way, we're giving back in kind because we relied on others during the first wave, so now we have the resources to receive and treat people. And it's good for us to take part and take the burden off others because we witnessed the distress we were in during the first wave, so it's good to relieve the neighbouring regions.
A lack of social distancing during early March caused a host of super spreading events in Strasbourg. With intensive care units overwhelmed, patients were flown to other parts of France, as well as Switzerland, Germany and Luxembourg. It was a hard lesson learned for the doctors here, and they hope to put it to good use. The region has just over 300 patients in intensive care, according to French public health data for this week.
Now, the Sea Dream Yacht Club has halted a cruise in the Caribbean following several positive coronavirus tests among passengers. The company said on Friday the Sea Dream 1 vessel is now docked in Barbados, where all passengers are being retested.
A Caribbean cruise was abruptly halted after several passengers tested positive for COVID-19. That's according to Sea Dream Yacht Club on Friday, which said their ship returned to port in Barbados and that all passengers were being retested. All tests of crew members have come back negative, according to the company. Some of the earliest clusters of COVID-19 were spread on board cruise ships, outbreaks that shut down much of the cruise industry this year. Sea Dream Yacht Club had said in September it planned to become the first luxury cruise operator to resume sailing in the West Indies, with 22 voyages planned from November 7th onwards.
And in more stories from home, the government has taken steps to provide relief to more than 1,400,000 families affected by the restrictions imposed due to the Covid-19 outbreak. A food package worth 10,000 rupees has been provided for each family undergoing quarantine process. The relief food package was distributed among more than 43,000 families from the 1st of October to the 10th of November. The Treasury has allocated 7.56 billion rupees for this purpose. Food aid worth 10,000 rupees were distributed among 10,000 families undergoing quarantine process in the Colombo district, 7,000 families in the Gampaha district and 4,000 families in the Kaluthura district respectively. 7.04 billion rupees has been set aside for the distribution of 5,000 rupees allowance for the affected families. In addition, the Treasury has set aside an additional sum of 78.06 million rupees for families undergoing quarantine process covering 16 districts.
Welcome back. On more news from home, Minister Johnston Fernando alleged that the rumours spreading through some social media regarding construction works of Lankagama Road in Nellore are completely false. He made this revelation during an observation tour of the construction work in Lankagama area yesterday. The total distance of the Nellore-Lankagama Road is 18 kilometers. Construction work is being carried out by the Sri Lanka Army under the supervision of the Road Development Authority. There were several photographs and information to show the project was unsuccessful was circulated through social media regarding Nellore-Lankagama Road. Minister Johnston Fernando, Parliamentarian Sampath Attukorala and Secretary to the Ministry of Road Construction Ranjith Premasiri and several state officials engaged in observational tour in the area to investigate the road construction work.
The Foreign Ministry of Sri Lanka urges all prospective Sri Lankan travellers, both inbound and outbound, to be cautious of individuals who demand payment or fee or any form of financial charges to facilitate entry permission to Sri Lanka or any other third world country. The Foreign Ministry hereby announces that no individual or entity is authorized by the Sri Lankan government to facilitate entry or exit from Sri Lanka other than the government institutions concerned. The repatriation process, which was temporarily suspended due to the rising numbers of caseloads in the country, will be resumed in the coming weeks with priority offered to the most vulnerable and deserving cases. Those who reside overseas may contact your nearest Sri Lankan embassy, Sri Lanka High Commission or Consulate General for further and authentic information or register your concerns on the Contact Sri Lanka web portal at www.contactsrilanka.mfa.gov.lk.
Korea sees huge potential in its bilateral relationship with Sri Lanka. The South Korean ambassador to Sri Lanka, Santosh Woonjin-jeong, in a message to mark the 43rd anniversary of the diplomatic relations between South Korea and Sri Lanka, said that the Asia-centric foreign policy of Sri Lanka is in harmony with the southern policy of Korea. November 14th is the 43rd anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic ties between Korea and Sri Lanka.
Since 1977, the relationship between our two countries have been robust, and we are truly good friends to each other. In 1980s, Korea was the largest foreign investor in Sri Lanka. Korea has considered Sri Lanka as an important trade and investment partner. I've witnessed the positive development since I arrived here in Sri Lanka last July. I can say that it is the right time for Sri Lanka to change and to take a leap to a higher level. I believe that Korea is the very country that can help Sri Lanka reach the pinnacle of national development and prosperity. I invite Korean investors to explore more opportunities in Sri Lanka, especially in the key sectors, including agriculture, LNG, renewable energy, infrastructure, digital economy, etc. Sri Lanka is one of Korea's principal development cooperation partners too. Sri Lanka is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, and I hope that more Korean tourists come to Sri Lanka and enjoy this beautiful island. 23,000 Sri Lankan employees are presently in Korea. Around 520 million US dollars were transmitted by them from Korea to Sri Lanka. They greatly contribute to economic advancement for both countries. Under the Stay Strong campaign, Korea and Sri Lanka have been strengthening anti-COVID cooperation with each other. The Korean embassy in Sri Lanka has shown its thankfulness by donating reusable fabric masks to the Sri Lanka Army and police, who have dedicated themselves to protect people in Sri Lanka, including Korean residents amid COVID-19. Korea is trying to provide anti-COVID support to Sri Lanka this year, strengthening its cooperation to uplift public health in Sri Lanka. Korea and Sri Lanka have been true friends to each other. I love Sri Lanka. I love Sri Lankan people. As the Korean ambassador, I look forward to closely and working with you to achieve our common goals. Let's stay strong together.
The Ports Authority says that steps have been taken to conduct cargo operations at all ports without further delays. There is an impact on port operations due to the pandemic situation in the country. Sri Lanka Customs has pledged to provide their services during the weekend until further notice. There were over 70 COVID-19 cases reported from the staff of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. At the same time, several cases were also reported from Sri Lanka Customs. Under this situation, 24-hour port operations were affected up to some extent. Global pandemic caused similar situations in ports throughout the world. Ports Authorities says 30% of the staff of the Jaya Container Terminal are going through the quarantine process. Chairman of the Ports Authority, retired General Daya Ratnayaka, said alternative steps have been taken to revitalize the port's activities. Some retired employees have been convened for this purpose. He requested the importers and other users of the port facilities to follow the new work procedures at the port during the pandemic season. Sri Lanka Customs will conduct their services during the weekend as well to drive away the present difficulties.
Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Siddharth Samaravira says a special attention on the health condition of senior citizens must be paid during this pandemic situation. He said health guidelines have been issued in this regard.
It is that we have seen that all over the world, the people who are at the elderly age, that is over 60 years, as well as that who are having chronic diseases like diabetes mellitus, hypertension, ischemic heart disease, chronic kidney disease are getting more complicated COVID-19, and also that they need oxygen therapy and also the intensive care unit treatments. In addition that most of these people may end up their life with COVID-19 infection, the deaths are reported mostly among the elderly and people who are having chronic diseases. So because of that, our elderly population who are living in our country, that it is very much necessary that they stay at their home as much as possible, should not come out of their homes unnecessarily, should stay healthy, should control their chronic diseases, and should have a good nutrition, and should live a relaxed life during these days. But on the other hand, if some of this elderly person is having COVID-19 and getting some signs and symptoms suggestive of COVID-19 like fever, cough, cold, sore throat, difficulty in breathing, chest pain, that they should immediately get medical advice. And also that if they do like that, we will be able to identify complications early and treat them early and prevent any death among these people. So because of that what they can do is, the best thing is that first thing that they can contact 1999 the hotline of the Health Promotion Bureau. They can discuss with them and get a correct reply what to do that if they are having these symptoms. And also if they want to go to the hospital, they should use a private vehicle, should not use the public vehicle, because that if they are COVID-19 infected people, it will spread to other people who are using the common transport.
Senior journalist and veteran artist Sidney Chandrasekhar passed away this morning while receiving treatment at the hospital. Late Sidney Chandrasekhar was 61 years old at the time of his demise. He was a past pupil of Anand College in Colombo. Chandrasekhar commenced his career as a journalist from Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation in 1988. In the early years of his career, Chandrasekhar worked under veteran artist Titus Totavatta at Rupavahini and contributed many popular dubbing productions such as Oshin and Malgudi Days. Chandrasekhar created many popular teledramas in Sri Lanka, including Nidhikumbamal and Kumarayanini. He held many important positions in the field of media in the country. Sidney Chandrasekhar, who made a difference in the art of writing lyrics in the country, was renowned for his many creations. And that's all the stories for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night.